3 feet from a crocodile tearing a chicken apart with its teeth, a 7-year-old girl is dangling her feet in the water. And she's bored. She's not watching the crocodile. She's watching her friend, waiting for her turn to splash. That's not the opening of a horror movie. That's a Tuesday afternoon in a village called Bazoule, 30 kilometers outside the capital of Burkina Faso, in West Africa. No fence around that pond. No warning sign. No rangers standing by with a tranquilizer gun. Just water, a few dozen homes, and depending on who's counted, and when somewhere between 100 and close to 200 crocodiles, sharing space with roughly 2,000 people. And in the entire recorded history of this village, nobody can point to a single person who's been attacked. Stay with me, because the reason why is stranger, older, and more deliberate than the crocodiles are just friendly. Bazoule is small, a farming community, mostly the Mossi ethnic group, growing millet and vegetables on the dry central plateau of Burkina Faso. On a map, it's unremarkable one dot among thousands of villages across the Sahel, except for the pond at its center. Local tradition holds that the village itself began when the youngest son of a regional chief, Naba Koda, struck out and founded his own settlement. Originally named Pazolgo Tanga, a name that slowly wore down over generations into Bazoule. That pond isn't fenced off from daily life, it is daily life. Women fetch water from it. Children swim and bathe in it. And the same water is home to more than 100 West African crocodiles, animals normally associated with ambush attacks and riverbank tragedies. Here, there's something closer to neighbors. To understand why, you have to go back roughly 500 to 600 years, to a drought that nearly ended the village before it properly began. According to the story passed down through generations, sometime in the 14th or 15th century, the region was gripped by a drought so severe that villagers had to travel for miles just to find water. Some accounts put the distance at 10 to 15 kilometers, walked on foot, in the heat, with nothing guaranteed at the end of it. And then the crocodiles appeared. The story goes that a group of crocodiles moved through the parched land, and instead of fleeing them, the villagers, desperate enough to follow anything, followed. The crocodiles led them to a hidden source of water, a spring the village hadn't known existed. The village survived. And from that day, the story wasn't treated as a coincidence. It was treated as a debt. In return for that life-saving guidance, the villagers made a vow to protect and honor the crocodiles permanently. Not as pets, not as attractions, as the reason the village still existed. That vow is the entire foundation of everything you're about to see. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because this isn't just a story about faith, there's real biology backing part of it. For most of the 20th century, scientists lumped every crocodile across Africa into one species, the Nile crocodile, Crocodylus niloticus, the same animal responsible for the vast majority of fatal crocodile attacks on the continent. But in 2011, genetic sequencing of both living and mummified crocodiles proved that Africa actually has 2 distinct crocodile species, hiding under one name, the aggressive, larger Nile crocodile, and a smaller, calmer, less abundant species called Crocodylus suchus. Crocodylus suchus, the West African crocodile, sometimes called the desert crocodile, typically grows to about 2 to 3 meters, occasionally reaching 4, and is noticeably smaller and less aggressive than its East African cousin. This is the species living in Bazoule's pond. And there's a strange historical echo here worth pausing on. The species was first formally described back in 1807, based on an ancient Egyptian crocodile mummy and it was named Suchus after Sobek, the crocodile-headed Egyptian god associated with the Nile, fertility, and protection. Bazoule's sacred crocodile isn't a new idea. It's arguably one of the oldest religious relationships in human history, still functioning, in real time, in a village most of the world has never heard of. So the calmness isn't imagined. It's partly written into the species, but species alone doesn't explain a 7-year-old sitting 3 feet from an adult male with her feet in the water. That takes something else: centuries of consistent, deliberate human behavior, feeding instead of fighting, presence instead of persecution, generation after generation of crocodiles growing up in a place where a human silhouette has never once meant danger. This is the part visitors always struggle with more than the crocodiles themselves, the children. They don't creep. They don't hesitate. They run past sleeping crocodiles the way kids anywhere else would run past a parked bicycle. According to local accounts, children in Bazoule are taught from birth to see the crocodiles as part of the community's social fabric, not as threats to avoid, but as beings to be respected, the same way you'd raise a child to respect an elder. One resident, Pierre Cabor, who grew up beside the pond, put it plainly to a journalist: "We got used to the crocodiles when we were young, swimming in the water with them and all that. Now we can always approach them and sit on them, and if you have the courage, you can lie on them too. There's no problem. They are sacred crocodiles. There's no problem said about an animal capable of killing a grown man in seconds." That sentence only makes sense once you understand this isn't recklessness. It's 5 centuries of pattern, repeated so consistently that fear simply never had a reason to take root. Not every crocodile in that pond is equal in status. There is, at any given time, one animal the village refers to as the old man of the lake, the dominant eldest male, and the closest thing the pond has to a living patriarch. The current holder of that position is believed to be around 110 years old, meaning he has lived through the colonial war fought over this territory, through Burkina Faso's independence, and through the rise and 1987 assassination of revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, the man who gave the country its modern name. The previous old man of the lake, who died just over a decade ago, was estimated at around 136 years old, and villagers believe some females in the pond may live past 150. And when one of these animals dies, the response isn't disposal, it's mourning. When a crocodile dies in Bazoule, it is wrapped, buried, and prayed over the same ceremonial treatment given to a respected human member of the community. To harm a crocodile here isn't just illegal by village custom. It's considered an offense against the ancestors themselves, and a threat to the whole community's well-being. This is what sacred actually means here, not a metaphor, a funeral. Once a year, that relationship is renewed publicly, in a ceremony called Koom Lakré. Held on the last Sunday of October, the ceremony is organized around a request asking the ancestors for one final rain of the season, so the harvest can be completed. The village chief leads the procession through Bazoule on horseback, dressed in ceremonial clothing, followed by a large crowd of residents. At the pond itself, a designated sacrificer kills the offered chickens while speaking quiet incantations, and the birds are then given to the crocodiles, which gather just a few meters from the crowd, without showing any sign of aggression toward the people present. For the largest, most senior crocodile, the old man of the lake chickens, aren't considered a sufficient offering. He's given sheep, goats, and occasionally even small donkeys. It's part religious rite, part harvest festival, part homecoming. And every year, it says the same thing in a different form. We remember what you did for us, and the agreement still stands. Word travels. Photos of strangers sitting on crocodile backs made Bazoule an international curiosity, and tourism became a real part of the local economy. Guides now walk visitors through the customs, and small gifts for the village are considered good etiquette. But that attention hasn't been free of cost. When COVID-19 shut down international travel, the flow of visitors and the income that came with it collapsed almost overnight, hitting a community that had come to rely on it. And there's a second, quieter worry among the elders, one that has nothing to do with money. It's the fear that a 500-year covenant slowly gets flattened into a photo backdrop, that the old man of the lake, a creature mourned like a grandfather when he dies, becomes, in the eyes of a passing visitor, just a prop for a picture. Nobody in Bazoule is asking the world to stop coming. They're asking it to understand what it's looking at. So, go back to that girl. Feet in the water. A crocodile 3 feet away, completely unbothered. Neither of them afraid. It isn't fearlessness. It's 500 years of a promise, kept on both sides, one generation at a time. Which leaves one question worth sitting with after the video ends. The thing that unsettled you the most when this started, was it ever actually dangerous? Or was it just unfamiliar?